Welcome, fellow explorers of wisdom. Today, we're about to dive deep into one of the most fascinating zodiac signs, Gemini. Known for their duality, ever-changing moods, and a constant thirst for knowledge, Geminis often leave us both intrigued and perplexed. But what makes Gemini truly tick? In this video, we're not just scratching the surface, we're diving into 25 psychological facts that very few people know about this enigmatic air sign. So, stay tuned as we explore the Gemini personality in ways you've never heard before, and uncover truths about how they think, feel, and interact with the world around them. 1. Gemini's intense curiosity. Geminis are naturally curious beings, an intellectual explorer at heart. Their insatiable thirst for knowledge leads them to dive into new adventures, from learning a new language to exploring the depths of philosophy. A Gemini is the type to keep asking questions, even when they've found an answer. This curiosity is what drives them to connect the dots of the world. But there's a catch: this constant thirst can sometimes make them spread themselves too thin. They move from one interest to the next, often leaving projects unfinished. Personal insight: I believe that Gemini's curiosity comes from a deep desire to understand the world in its entirety. Their brains are always in motion, constantly looking for new ideas, theories, and experiences. Their endless exploration often leads them to tap into new passions. Yet this same trait can be a double-edged sword. They often abandon projects because they need novelty to fuel their minds. Story example: have you ever seen a Gemini dive deep into an unknown subject for a few weeks, only to abandon it for the next fascinating topic? It's a perfect demonstration of their limitless curiosity. I had a Gemini friend who once became obsessed with the idea of learning how to play the violin. After a few weeks of practice, the excitement faded, and they moved on to learning photography. This illustrates just how quickly their attention shifts, and how they are never satisfied with just scratching the surface of anything. 2. Fear of vulnerability. Behind that charming, sociable demeanor lies a Gemini's greatest fear: vulnerability. Despite their ability to communicate and engage with others, they often hesitate to share their innermost emotions. This stems from a fear of being judged or betrayed. The walls they build around their emotions can make them seem distant, even though deep down, they long for genuine connections. Personal insight: this is something I've observed repeatedly. Gemini's ability to express themselves verbally is one of their strongest traits. But when it comes to opening up about their true feelings, they often put up barriers to protect themselves. These walls stem from their desire to protect their hearts from potential harm. However, once they trust someone deeply, their emotional world is far richer than anyone expects. Story example: I recall a moment with a Gemini friend who initially seemed emotionally distant. Over time, I built trust, and one day, they opened up about their fears of being abandoned. It was a revelation because their vulnerability was unlike any other moment they had shared before. This experience really taught me that patience and trust are essential when connecting with Geminis on a deeper level. 3. Restlessness and abandoning tasks. Geminis often start new books, hobbies, or projects but struggle to finish them. This restlessness doesn't stem from a lack of intelligence, it's the need for constant mental stimulation. Their minds are like ticking clocks, always in motion, moving from one thought to another. Insight: Geminis thrive on novelty, and when something new catches their attention, they dive into it with full energy. However, their quick shift in focus can often lead them to leave things unfinished. This is particularly noticeable with books. Many Geminis find it hard to read an entire book from cover to cover. Their curiosity pulls them in many directions at once. So they might not always finish what they start, but they gain a wealth of knowledge along the way. Story example: a close Gemini friend of mine once started reading a book about personal finance but then quickly moved to a book on space exploration. After a few weeks, they had several books half-read. None of them completed. It wasn't due to a lack of interest or intellect, it was simply the constant need for something fresh. This shifting nature can frustrate others, but it's just a core part of who they are. 4. The need for patience in emotional expression. Geminis, often seen as the life of the party, struggle to express deep emotions. Their analytical nature focuses more on thoughts and ideas than feelings. For those trying to connect with a Gemini on an emotional level, patience is key. They will only open up when they feel entirely safe. Personal story: I've experienced this firsthand. One of my Gemini friends is very intellectual and loves talking about abstract concepts. But when it comes to their feelings, they're incredibly reserved. Over time, I learned that their emotional expression requires an environment of trust and comfort. Once that was established, they opened up and shared some of the most insightful and profound thoughts they had about their own fears and desires. Insight: the key to building a deep connection with a Gemini lies in allowing them the time and space to express their emotions. Trying to rush them into vulnerability will only make them retreat further into their shell. But once they open up, the emotional connection is profound and real. 5. Freedom is essential for Geminis. Freedom is not a luxury for a Gemini, it's a necessity. Whether in relationships, careers, or personal life, they need the space to explore, grow, and be themselves. Insight: a Gemini will never thrive in an overly controlling environment. They need partners who respect their autonomy and trust them to make their own decisions. Story example: I once knew a Gemini who ended a relationship because their partner tried to lock them down too much. For a Gemini, the balance of closeness and space is key to a lasting connection. They value independence above all else and need their own freedom to explore the world without feeling restricted. Personal insight: understanding a Gemini's need for freedom isn't about accepting a lack of commitment. It's about knowing that they flourish when given the space to be themselves, explore their passions, and maintain their individuality. As long as there is mutual respect, this freedom will strengthen the connection rather than weaken it. 6. Empathy and sweetness. Geminis are sweet-natured and deeply empathetic. They can intuitively sense the emotions of those around them, making them great friends and companions. Despite their witty, sometimes sarcastic nature, they genuinely care about the well-being of others. This empathy allows them to connect with people on a deeper level, even when they may not express it in traditional ways. Insight: while their sharp wit and impulsive nature might sometimes unintentionally hurt others, their empathy ensures they will always seek to make things right. They are not the type to intentionally harm someone emotionally, and if they do, they will go out of their way to apologize and make amends. This balance of empathy and impulsiveness can create a dynamic where Geminis feel deeply connected to those they care about, even if their words or actions occasionally cause misunderstandings. Story example: a close friend of mine, a Gemini, once made a joke at a party that unintentionally hurt someone. The next day, they immediately sought out the person to apologize, acknowledging how their comment could have been taken the wrong way. This is a perfect example of how their sweetness and empathy drive them to correct their mistakes and maintain harmony in their relationships. It also showcases their deep sense of responsibility towards the emotional well-being of those around them. 7. Attraction to authenticity. Geminis have a natural attraction to authenticity. They value honesty and transparency. And they're often drawn to people who are unapologetically themselves. Pretending to be something they're not is a deal breaker for them. They appreciate uniqueness and are often the first to recognize and celebrate the quirks of others. Personal insight: in my experience, Geminis can spot a fake from a mile away. They have a sharp intuition that allows them to quickly assess whether someone is being genuine. If they sense even the slightest hint of dishonesty, they will disengage. This is why it's crucial for anyone wanting to build a lasting connection with a Gemini to be real and open about who they are. Story example: I've had a Gemini friend who, after meeting someone at a gathering, quickly pointed out that the person was being a bit too rehearsed and not entirely themselves. This wasn't a judgment but an intuitive observation that Geminis make regularly. They are naturally attracted to people who are not afraid to show their true selves, even if those true selves are far from perfect. 8. Gemini's creativity in intimacy. One of the most exciting psychological traits of Geminis is their creativity, which extends to every aspect of their lives, including intimacy. They are imaginative and adventurous lovers who thrive on exploring new ways to keep the passion alive. Whether it's trying new experiences or discovering creative ways to connect emotionally and physically, Geminis bring excitement and variety into the bedroom. Insight: for Geminis, intimacy is more than just physical connection, it's a mental and emotional bond. They value communication in their relationships and use this skill to ensure that they are in tune with their partner's desires. This desire for variety and creativity is what makes Gemini an engaging and dynamic partner. Story example: I knew a Gemini couple who would plan weekly date nights, each one different from the last. Sometimes it was a surprise activity, other times a deep conversation under the stars. Their relationship was never boring because they continually sought new ways to surprise and engage with each other. It was a testament to how Gemini's need for variety extends beyond hobbies and into all aspects of their lives, including love and intimacy. 9. Desire for pleasure and need for variety. Geminis thrive on pleasure and excitement, constantly seeking new experiences that stimulate both their mind and body. This includes everything from trying out new foods, traveling to new places, to engaging in adventurous activities. However, routine and predictability are their greatest enemies, and they will quickly lose interest in a relationship, job, or hobby if it becomes too monotonous. Personal insight: this need for variety is one of the reasons why Geminis can sometimes be perceived as flighty or indecisive. But it's important to understand that this trait is rooted in their desire to experience life to the fullest. They don't want to be bogged down by the same routine and are always looking for the next exciting challenge or experience. Story example: I once traveled with a Gemini friend, and every few days, we would switch up our itinerary, never staying in one place for too long. It was an exhilarating experience, but I also noticed how restless they became when the trip started to feel predictable. It was a reminder that for Geminis, the thrill is in the journey, not necessarily in reaching the destination. 10. The complex nature of Gemini's personality. Geminis are known for their complexity and depth. They can be playful, yet serious, light-hearted, yet deeply introspective. Their personality can shift depending on the situation, making them fascinating yet sometimes challenging to understand. They often struggle with balancing their carefree, fun-loving side with their more serious, contemplative nature. Insight: this duality is what makes Geminis both captivating and difficult to pin down. Their complexity can cause them to appear inconsistent or unpredictable at times. However, this is simply part of their dynamic nature. What seems like a contradiction is actually a reflection of their adaptability and ability to thrive in different environments. Personal reflection: I've often found that the most rewarding relationships with Geminis come from truly embracing their multifaceted nature. Instead of expecting them to always be one way, it's about appreciating the balance between their playful side and their deep, introspective moments. Story example: I once had a conversation with a Gemini about their childhood. They shifted from telling funny, light-hearted stories to suddenly reflecting on more serious topics, like their personal fears and aspirations. This shift was a stark reminder of how Geminis constantly vacillate between different emotional states, making their personalities dynamic and multi-layered. 11. Geminis are unstoppable optimists. One of the most remarkable psychological traits about Geminis is their unshakable optimism. Even in the face of adversity, they have an innate ability to look on the bright side and find silver linings. This positive outlook is not just a defense mechanism, it's a core part of who they are. Geminis believe that every challenge comes with an opportunity for growth, and they approach life with a can-do attitude that inspires those around them. Personal insight: I've always admired how Geminis can take setbacks in stride. When life throws obstacles their way, they don't get bogged down for long. Instead, they pick themselves up, adjust their mindset, and continue moving forward. This resilience is a trait that makes them a source of motivation for their friends and loved ones, even during tough times. Story example: I remember a time when a Gemini friend of mine faced a major setback at work, one that would have discouraged anyone else. But instead of giving up, they focused on how to learn from the situation and immediately started planning their next steps. Their optimism was contagious, and it helped everyone around them stay positive as well. 12. Geminis are drawn to novelty. Curiosity, restlessness, and a love for variety are defining psychological traits of Geminis. They are constantly seeking novelty and excitement. Whether it's trying a new hobby, meeting new people, or learning an unfamiliar skill, life for Geminis is a playground filled with endless possibilities. This thirst for novelty keeps them energized and motivated, but it also means that they can be easily bored by routine. Personal insight: in my experience, Geminis are the types who always have a new project or idea in the works. Their minds are constantly buzzing with fresh thoughts and concepts. However, this constant need for novelty can sometimes make it difficult for them to stay grounded, especially if their environment becomes too predictable. Story example: I had a Gemini colleague who would jump from one project to the next. One month, they were obsessed with photography, the next they were into coding, and then they switched to interior design. Their energy was both exhilarating and exhausting, but it also reminded me that for a Gemini, every new interest is an opportunity to grow and evolve. 13. Geminis value trust before communication. Geminis are naturally social and enjoy meaningful conversations, but trust plays a pivotal role in how they interact with others. They will not engage openly with someone they don't fully trust or consider a true friend. If a Gemini doubts the sincerity or loyalty of those around them, they will retreat into themselves, offering only minimal responses or avoiding interaction altogether. Personal insight: this need for trust is one of the most important things to understand about Geminis. If you haven't built a strong foundation of trust with them, they will not open up easily. They are very protective of their emotions and will only share their true selves with people they feel they can rely on. Story example: a Gemini friend of mine once distanced themselves from a group of people because they felt that some members were not being honest. Even though they appeared outgoing and social, their reluctance to engage was a clear signal that trust had been broken. This experience taught me that Geminis value loyalty deeply and will not waste their time or emotions on people they don't trust. 14. Geminis are intellectually curious and communicative. Geminis are among the most communicative and intellectually curious signs of the zodiac. They are naturally drawn to the pursuit of knowledge and thrive on new experiences that broaden their horizons. Their quick wit and sharp intelligence make them excellent conversationalists who can engage in discussions on a wide range of topics. For Geminis, learning is a lifelong passion, and they are constantly seeking opportunities to expand their understanding of the world. Insight: if you ever engage in a conversation with a Gemini, be prepared to discuss anything from philosophy to the latest technological breakthroughs. Their curiosity leads them to question everything, and they are always eager to share what they've learned. However, their restless minds can make it difficult for them to focus on just one topic for too long, as they are always moving on to the next interesting idea. Story example: a Gemini friend of mine once spent an entire afternoon discussing the potential for extraterrestrial life, shifting between various scientific theories and philosophical musings. It was a lively conversation that spanned from the history of the universe to the ethical implications of first contact. It wasn't just about the topic, it was about the sheer joy of learning and exchanging ideas. 15. Geminis thrive on change. Change is at the core of a Gemini's identity. They are constantly evolving and adapting to new circumstances. For Geminis, change is not just a part of life, it is essential to their sense of self. They embrace transformation as a vital part of their journey and find excitement in exploring new roles, ideas, and opportunities. This makes them unpredictable yet captivating individuals who rarely stay the same for long. Personal insight: I've always found it interesting how Geminis seem to embrace change with open arms. They see it as a chance to reinvent themselves, to explore different versions of who they can be. However, this fluidity can also make them hard to pin down, especially for those who prefer stability and consistency. Story example: I once worked with a Gemini who completely changed careers midway through a project. They had been working in marketing for years but decided to pursue a passion for photography. While this sudden shift seemed surprising at first, it made perfect sense given their adaptable nature. They embraced the change fully, and it was inspiring to see them dive into something new with such enthusiasm. 16. Geminis value shared leadership in relationships. Geminis are naturally decisive individuals who know what they want, but they also appreciate a balance of power in their relationships. They value shared leadership, where both partners contribute equally to the dynamic. They enjoy taking the initiative, but they feel most fulfilled when their partner is also proactive and involved. For Geminis, relationships are most successful when both partners take equal responsibility and contribute to decision-making. Personal insight: in my experience, Geminis are not the type to dominate in a relationship. They want to collaborate and make decisions together. This preference for shared leadership ensures that both parties feel equally valued and respected, making the relationship more harmonious and fulfilling. Story example: I know a Gemini couple who always made decisions together, whether it was about planning a vacation or deciding on a home renovation project. They would discuss options, weigh the pros and cons, and reach a mutual decision. This approach kept their relationship balanced and allowed them both to feel equally involved in the relationship. 17. Geminis have a complex character. Geminis possess a complex and often contradictory personality, which defines their character. They are known for their playful and unpredictable nature, which can sometimes come across as a lack of seriousness. However, this duality stems from their restless energy and desire for constant stimulation. While they have incredible charm and wit, They may struggle with maintaining focus or showing consistent determination. Insight: this complexity is what makes Geminis intriguing, but also a bit difficult to understand at times. Their dual nature can make them seem inconsistent or indecisive, but it's really just the result of their dynamic personalities. They can be light-hearted and fun one moment, then deep in thought and introspection the next. This ever-changing energy can make them both fascinating and challenging to connect with. Story example: a Gemini friend of mine would sometimes shift from being the life of the party to suddenly becoming quiet and thoughtful. It could be perplexing, but I learned that their mood swings were simply a reflection of their inner complexity. Embracing both sides of their personality was the key to understanding them fully. 18. Geminis are unstoppable in bed. When it comes to intimacy, Geminis bring a sense of adaptability and spontaneity to their relationships. They are open-minded and willing to explore, rarely letting circumstances deter them from finding pleasure and connection with their partner. This flexibility reflects their overall approach to life, where they thrive on variety and excitement. Insight: Geminis see intimacy as a way of expressing themselves emotionally, mentally, and physically. Their curiosity and open-mindedness allow them to explore new ways to keep things exciting in the bedroom. This makes them versatile and attentive lovers who enjoy creating memorable experiences for their partners. Story example: I knew a Gemini couple who constantly found new ways to keep their relationship fresh. One day, they would plan an adventurous date. The next they would try something creative and unexpected. Their approach to intimacy was dynamic and full of surprises, making their connection truly unique and fulfilling. 19. Geminis desire pleasure but need variety. Geminis are deeply attuned to the joys of giving and receiving pleasure. They thrive on passion and excitement, seeking experiences that stimulate both their mind and body. However, routine is their greatest enemy. Predictability can quickly dampen their enthusiasm, causing them to lose interest in a relationship, activity, or situation if it becomes too repetitive. Insight: understanding Gemini's need for variety is crucial for anyone who wants to maintain a strong connection with them. They need novelty in their lives, especially when it comes to relationships. This is why they are naturally drawn to partners who can keep things fresh, whether it's through new experiences, ideas, or activities. Story example: I once dated a Gemini who loved planning surprise getaways to spontaneous destinations. The thrill of the unknown was what kept them excited. When things became routine, the spark began to fade. This taught me that Geminis value spontaneity and variety in all aspects of their lives, including relationships. 20. Geminis are masters of creativity. One of the most exciting psychological facts about Geminis is their unparalleled creativity, which extends to every aspect of their lives. They are imaginative and adventurous partners who thrive on exploring new ways to keep the passion alive. Their curiosity and open-mindedness ensure that they are always willing to try new things, making them dynamic and engaging lovers. Personal insight: Geminis excel at thinking outside the box, and this creative energy spills over into every part of their lives. Whether it's planning a surprise date, designing something new, or coming up with creative solutions to problems, Geminis bring innovation to everything they do. Story example: I had a Gemini friend who was an artist and was always full of new, bold ideas. One day, they took a completely different approach to their art, experimenting with a new medium that no one had seen before. The result was a stunning piece of work that showed the depth of their creativity. Their constant need to innovate keeps them on the cutting edge, always evolving. 21. Geminis are incredibly adaptable. Geminis are known for their ability to adapt quickly to new situations and environments. This adaptability is one of their strongest traits and allows them to thrive in a variety of settings. Whether it's a new job, a new city, or a new relationship, Geminis can navigate change with ease, making them incredibly versatile individuals. Insight: this flexibility can sometimes be misinterpreted as inconsistency, but it's really a reflection of their ability to adjust to whatever life throws their way. They are not afraid of change, and in fact, they seek it out as a way to keep their lives exciting and full of possibilities. Story example: a Gemini friend of mine once moved to a new country for work. Within a few months, they had made new friends, learned the language, and found a new sense of belonging. Their ability to adapt so quickly was impressive and showed just how resilient they can be in the face of change. 22. Geminis struggle with emotional decisions. When it comes to matters of the heart, Geminis can be a puzzle. One of the most intriguing psychological facts about them is their struggle with emotional decisions. This isn't due to a lack of care or interest, but rather their deeply analytical nature. Geminis tend to overthink and weigh every possible outcome before committing to a course of action. Insight: this cautious approach can sometimes come across as indecisiveness, but it's really about Geminis wanting to make the right choice. They value their independence and are cautious about diving too quickly into relationships or situations that might compromise their sense of freedom. Story example: I once witnessed a Gemini friend struggling to make a decision about a relationship. They loved the person but feared losing their freedom. They spent weeks analyzing the situation from every angle before finally making a decision. In the end, they chose a path that allowed them to maintain their independence while still pursuing love, showing how they balance their emotional needs with their desire for freedom. 23. Geminis value their individuality above all. One of the most defining psychological traits of Geminis is their strong sense of individuality. They are fiercely independent and value their personal freedom above all else. This trait often influences their approach to relationships and life in general. For Geminis, being true to themselves is non-negotiable. Personal insight: I've noticed that Geminis are not the type to conform to societal expectations or follow the crowd. They are comfortable in their own skin and prioritize their personal growth and happiness over fitting into conventional molds. This strong sense of individuality can make them challenging to connect with, especially for those who expect traditional relationship dynamics. Story example: a Gemini friend of mine once turned down a high-paying job offer because it didn't align with their values. They valued their sense of purpose and individuality more than financial gain, a choice that required great courage and conviction. This showed me just how deeply they value their personal autonomy. 24. Gemini's goals are constantly evolving. Winning over a Gemini can feel like chasing a moving target. This is because Geminis are known for their ever-changing goals and priorities. They thrive on variety and new experiences, which makes their lives exciting but also a bit unpredictable. This constant evolution is not a sign of instability but rather their way of keeping life fresh and engaging. Insight: for Geminis, goals are not set in stone. They are constantly reevaluating their priorities based on new experiences and insights. This means that what might be important to them today may shift tomorrow, and that's part of what makes them so dynamic. Story example: a Gemini friend of mine was working on a startup for a while, but after a few months, they decided to pivot and pursue a completely different project that excited them more. While this shift surprised many, it made perfect sense to me. For Geminis, life is about growth and exploration, and they are always looking for the next challenge to tackle. 25. Geminis are constantly evolving. The final psychological trait we'll explore is the fact that Geminis are always evolving. They are on a constant journey of self-discovery, constantly reshaping who they are and what they want. This evolution is fueled by their curiosity, desire for novelty, and the experiences they gather along the way. Personal insight: this constant change can make Geminis seem unpredictable, but it's also what makes them so interesting. They never settle into one version of themselves. Instead, they are always pushing boundaries and exploring new facets of their personality and abilities. Story example: I've known a Gemini who started out as a marketing professional, then moved into music production, and later became a writer. Each time, they evolved and grew, embracing new challenges and opportunities. It's this ability to reinvent themselves that makes Geminis so unique and inspiring. We've now uncovered even more of the fascinating psychological traits that make Geminis such dynamic and multi-dimensional individuals. From their constant evolution to their desire for novelty and variety, understanding these traits can help us appreciate the true complexity of the Gemini personality. In the final part of our series, we will explore even more about the Gemini personality, offering deeper insights into their minds and hearts. Be sure to subscribe to the Path to Buddhist Wisdom for more insights into astrology, psychology, and spirituality.